is Contemporary Chinese, Revised Edition, Volume 2, Lesson 10, Words and Expressions, Part 2. So we start off with an expression that means in normal times, in ordinary times, or ordinarily. And the expression is 平时. 平时. We know that second character well. We've seen that character before in the word 时候 and 时间. So combined together with 平, it just means normally or ordinarily. So you might do something normally, or something might happen normally or ordinarily. So you can say 平时我喜欢每天看电视。平时我喜欢每天看电视。So normally I like to watch television every day. Okay, moving on to the next one. 运动. 运动. Physical exercise. So it says here on our list that it's a noun, but what I noticed was in the dialogue that they actually use 运動 as a verb. And I think what they say in the dialogue from memory is, I'll give you a slightly different version of what's in the dialogue, and then we'll look at the actual version when we talk about this in class. So it's 我没有时间运动. I have no time to do physical exercise. So even though they use it, they say in our list here that it's a noun, it can also be used as a verb. Next one is a clear verb. It means to climb or crawl. 爬, 爬. And so the activity of what we might call mountain climbing, one way that you can say that in Chinese is, I bet you've already guessed, 爬山. 爬山. So that's to climb a mountain. But also, if you wanted to talk about mountain climbing, you can say, 我非常喜欢爬山. And you can also do, for example, you could say something like 我喜欢爬山运动, or 我喜欢爬山活动. So we learned the word 活动 in the lesson before this, I think, in lesson 9. So that's 爬. Then we have the word for mountain top, 山顶. 山顶. 山 we already know. 顶 we're meeting for the first time. And 顶 is like the top part of anything, like a building or some kind of topographical feature, landscape, like a mountain or like a building. So the top of a building is going to be 楼顶. 楼顶. So when you want to talk about the top of the building, you can use the expression 楼顶. Okay, so moving along. And our next one is a verb to run or to jog. 跑步. 跑步. Even though here it doesn't say that it's a verb, it is actually one of those verb plus objects. 跑, as it says here, being the actual verb. And then 步, meaning a step, as in when one's walking, the steps that one takes. So 跑步 is that combination there. And so, for example, you can use it as a noun. You can say 我喜欢跑步. So we're using it there as a noun. You can also say, for example, you're heading out the door and somebody says, oh, where are you going? And say 我出去跑步. So I'm going out to go for a run. So it can be used as a verb there. Also, There is, I guess, what you call the sort of what I call the diminutive form. So if I want to say I'm going out for a bit of a run, you can say 我出去跑步。我出去跑步。So here what we do is repeat the verb 跑, obviously, and then have the character 步 after it. And that again suggests a sort of a more casual thing where you're saying going out for a bit of a run. And so when you use it as a verb, say for example, we want to say he runs very fast. So we use the verb plus the plus the predicative complement that we have learned before. So we would say something like, 他跑步跑得let's say 非常 oops, gotta get my D back there, 非常快他跑步跑得非常快 or you can just simply say, 他跑得非常快 他跑得非常快 or you could say 他跑得挺快 that's the word that we learned in the words and expressions part 1. So anyhow, that is the verb 跑. Next one we have is the expression for Tai Chi boxing. 太极拳 太极拳 So clearly in Australia we call it Tai Chi, but this is the actual word here. So Tai we've learned before, meaning too much if it's, 太贵了 too expensive. Ji we've also learned before. We learned the expression, for example, 好极了. So when we put 极了 after an adjective like 好, it means extremely. 拳 means a fist. So 太极拳, I'm not saying this is how it's translated or how it's understood, but in a way it could mean something like, extreme fist or extreme boxing. 拳 means fist and 拳击 is the word for boxing. Let's just put that up there. 拳击. Be nice if I could type properly. 拳击. 拳击. And that G equals attack. So, but the whole expression means boxing. Boxing. So really what it is punch attack, if you like. Punch or fist attack. 拳. So they talk about to 打拳. 打拳. Let me just pop that down here. 打拳. There it is there. So 拳击 is the activity boxing. 打拳 is to box. And the 拳, as I say, is part of this word 太极拳 for Thai boxing. If you're interested, you can jump onto Wikipedia, for example, and you can look up the, there's a very interesting time or period in Chinese history where you had the Taiping Rebellion. And this was, I won't go into too much now, but this was a period in time when there was a group of people that were opposed to the ruling powers in China at the time, and they all learned martial arts, and they all believed that, in fact, they were invincible, invulnerable, that the foreign powers that had, in a sense, invaded China at the time, that all had modern weapons of war like guns and rifles, that their bullets couldn't hurt these Thai boxers. And so they then rose up against the foreigners, and of course you can imagine unarmed boxers, no matter how good their martial arts are were no match for the modern weaponry of the foreign powers, the European powers at the time. Anyhow, that's something that you can have a look at, and it relates to Taiji Quan and Quanji and Da Quan. Okay, next word is the verb to teach, and it is jiao. And we have seen that word before in the word for classroom, which is 教室. I'm sure you remember that. We go down here. Now, the thing I want to point out to you is that the word for classroom, 教室, the 教, the first character is pronounced in the fourth tone, 教室. So that's our classroom. And in the case of this word, 教, the verb, it's actually first tone. So for example, if I want to say, I teach Chinese, 我教中文. So same character, different tone. Next word is both a verb and a noun. 建议. 建议, to suggest or a suggestion. So I might say, for example, I suggest that we go now. 我建议我们现在就去. So there I'm using 建议 as a verb. But you can also use it as a noun, and you might say, for example, so I've said that, and then somebody else that's with me might say, oh, 你的建议很好. I might just quickly throw those ones up there for you. So you would say, 我建议我们现在就走. So I suggest that we should go right now. And then somebody else who might say, oh, 你的建议非常好. So actually, if you look at this second sentence here, this second example, again, one of the ways that we know that 建议 here is being used as a noun is the fact that it's preceded by 的. And that 的 only comes before nouns. So you can see in the first one, we're using 建议 directly, and we're suggesting that we do something, and then the second one, we're using 建议 as a noun. Okay, now we've got a new word, 注意. 注意, to pay attention to. And again, there'll be a particular way it's used in the text. But for example, it's very common to hear people say, for example, particularly parents to kids, they might say, for example, 你们注意安全. So that means to literally to pay attention to safety. So it's another way of saying, be careful. So the expression 安全 means one of the meanings is safety. And actually, you guys would have come across it in the one of the Chinese island lessons at the railway station when you bought your tickets, and you were then heading over to find your train, find the platforms, and then find your train. And there was a doorway in the area where the tickets are sold, and there was a conveyor belt and a person standing there. And at first, you couldn't go through the doorway; you had to show your ticket, as in, click on the ticket. That's called 安全检查. 安全检查 or 安检 for short. So it's 安全检查 or 安检. There it is there. And so that's really a safety check. And so in Chinese railway stations all over the country, before you go onto the train, they actually make, or in many cases, before you even go into the station, you have to go through an X-ray and a personal examination. So anyhow, that's 注意, to pay attention to something. 动 meaning to move. Now we've come across that obviously in 运动 up here. We've come across it in the word 活动 for activity. Now here, actually in this lesson, it's going to be used together with another verb to create that verb plus complement type structure, And the verb it's used together with in this lesson is pa, meaning to climb, and dong meaning to move. And it's used in a particular way. So, okay, even though these videos are not about grammar, we talk about that separately. However, I just want to show you the expression that it's used in this dialogue, the dialogues of this lesson, because it's a new grammar structure, but it's built on what we've been looking at for the last few lessons. So one of the characters, they've been climbing a mountain and they've got sort of halfway up, and one of the characters is very tired and says, 我恐怕爬不动了. So the structure here is verb plus either that or 不 plus another verb. And it's called the potential complement. And really what it's focused on is being the ability to do or to not be able to do. So if I say, for example, this one here, 爬不动了, 爬不动了, it means I can't climb anymore. I don't have the ability to. I'm too tired. I can't climb anymore. On the other side of that, you might ask the question, 你爬得动吗? Can you still keep climbing? Or can you climb? 你爬得动吗? So this is, a verb plus another verb, and then in between we've got the da, which means one has the ability, one can do something, or we have the bu between the two verbs, which means one cannot do the main verb, which is the first verb. So in this case, pa, to climb. Anyhow, we'll talk more about that in the lesson, but I just thought I would show you how dong in this list here is being used this time in this lesson. We now have anjing. Anjing meaning quiet. I think we've learned this in an earlier lesson. I might put this a bit further down on the page down here. So we can do, for example, if we want to describe somewhere as being quiet and peaceful, we can say that place is, and we want to do it in a descriptive way, a sort of a vivid way. An jing. So what we've got is that sort of, AA, BB pattern. So as this anjing is an adjective, so it's describing some character or featuristic of the place, then if we want to do it in a more kind of vivid, descriptive way, we can double up like this and say anjing jingda. And in this lesson, we actually combine anjing with this one here, and we combine it with a verb. So again, I'm going to talk about this obviously more in the grammar section. So what we've got is we've got an adjective plus we've got this de, and you're going to look at that and you're going to say, oh, but hang on, 老师, that's sorry, let me just scroll that up. That's in the word for map, 地图, and in the word for place, 地方, and so on, and that it's pronounced 地, and that's true. However, when it's used as a particle like this, so what we're doing is we're connecting an adverb or an adverbial phrase or an adjective and a verb. Then we put this de in between. So what we've got is an adjective and a verb. And so even though here in our explanation it talks about adverb or adverbial phrases, what it really is we've got adjectives that are being used like adverbs. Now, just to briefly remind you all, adverbs add meaning to a verb. All right, so we have our ordinary verb. For example, let's take the one in the dialogue. It's 休息, I think, from memory. 休息, as we know, means to rest, to have a rest. So what we want to do is we want to describe how we want to rest, and we want to use an adjective to do that. And we can use 安静. So we want to say to rest peacefully, for example. So in the dialogue, one of the characters talks about an jing di. The should be pronounced de. But you type it in as di. An jing di xiu xi. So an jing is our adjective. The de is our connecting word, and then we've got our verb 休息 to rest. So in this way, we can use adjectives to act like adverbs in the sense that they add meaning to the verb. And in this case, we're adding meaning to the verb to rest and describing how we're going to rest, which is to rest peacefully. Anyhow, we'll talk more about that in the actual lesson. Make sure I keep that on screen. Just moving through this to the end, we've got lazy, 懒, and it's just used like any other adjective. 他很懒. And also the Chinese have an expression which is kind of cute. When they talk about lazy bones, you know, we say somebody's really lazy, they're lazy bones. They talk about a 懒虫, which we would say, you know, somebody's a lazy bones, but literally it means to be a lazy bug, a lazy insect. So 它是一个懒虫. So that's the verb 懒 to it's an adjective meaning somebody's lazy. This next one 话. It's kind of strange. They call it speech. I guess the one combination that we probably have seen it in before is the expression 说话. And if you look at that literally, we know that 说 is our verb to speak. And now we know that 话 means, well, when they say speech, it's as in, say for example, somebody's been in an accident or they've had a stroke or something like that, and we say, oh, his speech has been affected. So speech in that sense is a noun. When it's combined together with 说话, 说话 itself literally means to speak. But again, it's that combination of the actual verb 说 plus 话, meaning, you know, literally, I guess, to speak words, if you like. So that's an example of where the noun 话, meaning speech or verbal output, if you like, is combined together with another verb to make up the verb to speak. And we'll see some other examples of how this is used in the dialogues. 水, well, we've learned that before. We've learned that in the Chinese soup dumpling, 水饺. So that's easy enough. This next one is another quite useful and quite important pattern, I guess. It's kind of like a fixed pattern that you can use. 连 something something 都 or 连 something something yeah. Now this explanation here, even, is just not sufficient. It doesn't really explain what it means. Now let me just move this up here, do my transition. And so I've got some more space to give you some examples. So just very quickly, so we might say something like, the question is so simple, even a child could answer it. So that's what we mean by even here. Down here. Even a child could answer it. So if we are then going to say that in Chinese, we'd say, I wonder if I can do this, yep. We would say, this question, 这个问题很简单，连孩子, and we could say 都能回答, 连孩子都能回答. Up here, maybe if I change that, this question is very simple. Maybe that's closer to the Chinese. This question is very simple. 这个问题很简单，连孩子，连 followed by a noun of some sort, 都能回答. So then we're followed by a verb there. Another form of this could be 这个问题 excuse me 这个问题很简单，连孩子也能回答。So here, basically, we're using the same formula, 连 plus noun, but we've changed 都 to 也能回答. Essentially, they mean the same thing, and the 都 and the 也 can be used interchangeably. Anyhow, we'll talk more about that in the grammar section, but just gives you an idea of what they mean by even there. It means even in this sense that it's so simple, even a child could answer. So let's have a look at this next one. 才 only. Now it means it has a couple of meanings. For example, if I was to say to you, say a student comes in late to class. Not that that happens very often, but I might say to them, 你怎么才来? Now here, what we're asking is, so how come you've only just arrived? 才来, so the 才 there is emphasizing the lateness of something. I think in the dialogue, so let me just put that down there. So that's emphasizing, if I could spell that, emphasizing the lateness of something happening. Okay, so I think in the dialogue we have something like they're talking about climbing the hill. One of the characters says, 哎呦，我恐怕爬不动了, which is what I talked about a bit further up in the list there. 爬不动了, I can't keep climbing anymore. And then somebody else said, 我们, this is not exact, 我们爬山才爬了, get the right 爬 there, 才爬了一半. And what that's basically saying is we have only just climbed halfway. So here the 才 is not so much expressing the sort of lateness of things, but I guess it's emphasizing the fact that you've done less than you expected. But in other words, there's a lot more to still come. So the meaning of 才 is really dependent on the context in which it appears. And we'll see, again, as I say, some examples of that in the actual, when we get down and we look at the text and the dialogues in detail.